The streets of Birmingham were half asleep. Smoke from the factories drifted above the rooftops like ghosts too tired to rise. Gas lamps flickered along the narrow lanes, their light swallowed by the fog. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolled midnight. Slow, heavy, final. That's when she appeared. A woman in a dark coat, her footsteps soft against the cobblestones. People said she never hurried. She moved like she had all the time in the world, and perhaps she did. Men at the tavern doorway turned their eyes away as she passed. Mothers pulled their children closer. No one spoke her name aloud, not anymore. They said she had done it all. Theft, fraud, blackmail, worse. 110 crimes, or maybe more. But the strange thing was, nobody could prove a single one. The police called her the Mistress of Shadows. The papers called her the most dangerous woman in Birmingham. To most, she was a rumor, a story to frighten the reckless. To others, she was a fascination, a ghost in human form. They said she could vanish into a crowd, change her name like a coat, and smile her way through locked doors. She was the whisper before the crime, the calm before the chaos. And yet, if you had met her on the street, you might have found her kind. She tipped her hat to strangers. She fed stray dogs. She left coins on the steps of the church she never entered. That was her secret. Not what she took, but how she made people doubt what they knew about evil. Tonight, as the fog thickened, she turned down an alley no one used anymore. The bricks were cracked, the air still. Somewhere in that darkness she disappeared. Again. All that remained was a faint smell of lilac perfume, and a rumor that she was planning her 111th crime. Because that's the thing about legends, and they never stop breathing. They only wait for someone new to tell their story. They called her many names, the narrator whispers, voice low and even, but the one that mattered most was the one she gave herself. But legends don't rise from thin air. They're born from the streets that raise them, from hunger, from soot, from the slow grinding heart of a city that forgets its children. Before she became a whisper, she was a child of Birmingham, not the Birmingham of shining shop fronts and brass band parades, no. Hers was the city beneath that one, the one that woke before dawn and slept beside the chimneys. The one that smelled of iron, smoke, and rain. In the narrow back streets of Digbeth, the air was thick with soot. Men coughed their lives away in the forges. Women scrubbed laundry until their fingers split. And children, well, they learned early that hunger had a sound. That's where she grew up. No name worth remembering, just another face in the crowd, pale under the gaslight. Her mother worked nights at the factory where sparks fell like dying stars. Her father, no one spoke of him. Some said he vanished down a mine. Others whispered he'd been taken for theft. Whatever the truth, she learned one lesson too young: the world does not save you. You save yourself. At 10, she learned to pick locks. At 12, she learned to lie without blinking. By 15, she was running errands for men twice her age and half her morals. But there was something different about her. A stillness. While others shouted, she listened. While others fought for scraps, she studied faces, voices, habits. She didn't just survive Birmingham. She understood it. Because Birmingham in those days wasn't just a city. It was a living machine. It took in the desperate and spat out the ruthless. It didn't care what you believed in, only what you could get away with, and in that noise, she learned how to disappear. She could blend into a crowd of factory girls or pass for a merchant's wife with a borrowed shawl. She watched the police, the drunks, the dock workers, and found the rhythm in their chaos. Every habit, every weakness, every blind spot. By 18, she could open any door in the district. Not because she was strong, but because she made people trust her. That was her real weapon. Not beauty, not violence, but the quiet conviction that she belonged anywhere she stood. And soon she realized something chilling. The city that had forged her didn't frighten her anymore. It feared her. Every shadow was a map, every secret a key, and every person she met was a potential story waiting to be rewritten in her favor. That's how the legend began, not with fire or blood, but with a single thought whispered into the smoke of the city. If Birmingham can take everything from me, then it will also give me everything I want. And when you understand the rhythm of a place, you don't just live in it, you begin to write it for her. The first chapter came in the shape of a letter, folded neatly, written in ink the color of midnight, left on the counter of a small shop that sold silver trinkets and pocket watches. The shopkeeper, Mr. Whitlow, never saw who placed it there and only that it bore his name. When he opened it, the words were simple, polite, almost kind. I know what you've done. If you wish for silence, leave the sum discussed behind the clock on Thursday night. No threat. No signature. Just the faint scent of lilac. By Friday morning, the money was gone, and so was the letter. No one ever mentioned it again. That was her first crime. Not with a blade or a shout, but with ink and quiet confidence. She had found her gift, not in stealing things, but in stealing certainty. People trusted her handwriting, her tone, her invisible presence between words. And when she saw how easily guilt made men tremble, she smiled. From that moment, her crimes grew like ivy. Slow, deliberate, beautiful. A merchant accused of tax fraud received a note. A constable's wife found an anonymous warning in her drawer. A factory owner's books caught fire under mysterious circumstances. Each act whispered her name a little louder, though no one knew who she was. Soon, rumors began to curl through the taverns like smoke. A woman with no face. A voice softer than silk. A thief who took nothing but left people haunted. They said she could read secrets just by looking at you. That she could turn husband against wife, friend against friend, with only a few words written on folded paper. But the truth was simpler. She knew the city better than anyone. She knew where fear lived, and how to feed it. Each letter she sent was crafted like a spell. Never too harsh, never too bold. Just enough to make the guilty question their own safety. And once that fear took root, she didn't need to lift a finger. The city destroyed itself for her. One night she sat alone in a small attic room, her candle burning low. Stacks of paper around her, each marked with initials, each waiting for ink. And as she dipped her pen, she whispered to no one in particular. Truth is too loud. Lies, they whisper, and people always listen harder when you whisper. Outside, the rain began to fall. Soft, endless, cleansing nothing. That was how it started. A single letter in a foggy city. And by the time Birmingham woke, its most dangerous woman was already writing her next secret. And once a whisper is heard, it's impossible to silence. What began as one letter soon became an echo, a web that caught the whole city in it. Letters kept appearing, under doors, on desks, pinned to fences in the night. No one knew how they got there. No one ever saw her deliver them. And yet, everyone believed they might be next. The constables were overwhelmed. Every morning brought another complaint, another frightened citizen clutching a folded note. The police opened dozens, all written in the same neat, graceful hand. No fingerprints, no clues, just ink and lilac. Some accused the newspapers of inventing her to sell more copies. Others whispered that she was working for the crown, a spy disguised as a commoner. But the truth was far stranger. She wasn't chasing money anymore. She was chasing control. Each letter was a test, meant a pulse check on the city's soul. And the results were always the same. People would lie. They would turn on each other. They would confess things they hadn't even done just to make the whisper stop. Soon, entire neighborhoods were caught in the web. Merchants closed early. Wives accused husbands of secret affairs. Men who once walked proudly now crossed the street to avoid being seen. And through it all, she watched. From the window of a rented room above a bakery, she could see the market square, once alive with voices now uneasy. The city that had forged her was beginning to rot from the inside. One evening she watched two constables argue over a letter that neither admitted to writing. Their voices rose, their faces red. Then one of them struck the other. Blood stained the cobblestones. She smiled faintly. Fear, she whispered, is more obedient than love. Her lilac perfume became a sign of doom. Men swore they could smell it before a letter appeared. Women claimed it lingered on their pillows after bad dreams, and still, no one knew her face. She moved through the streets like the wind, unremarkable, invisible, inevitable. Some said she had gone too far. Others said she had only just begun. But one thing was certain, Birmingham no longer belonged to its people. It belonged to her whispers. And somewhere in that silence, the woman who once feared hunger now fed on something far more intoxicating. Power. Every city, she wrote in her journal that night, needs a secret keeper. I am merely doing what the city asked of me. Outside, the bells rang for midnight again. and the web grew tighter. But no matter how deep a shadow grows, there's always someone sent to chase it. And in Birmingham, they called him the Hunter. Every rumor, every whisper, every creak in the floorboards felt like her shadow moving through the streets. So the authorities chose a hunter. Inspector Charles Denham, a man built from order and suspicion. He had tracked smugglers through the docks of Liverpool, unmasked counterfeiters in Manchester. But when he came to Birmingham, he found something he couldn't hold. A ghost with a woman's grace and a criminal's mind. The files on his desk grew higher by the week. Hundreds of letters, statements, clues that pointed everywhere and nowhere. Some said she lived in the North Quarter, near the ironworks. Others swore they'd seen her stepping from a carriage in the wealthy lanes. She was everywhere and nowhere, a phantom of her own invention. Denham began to lose sleep. Each night he sat under the yellow light of his office lamp, rereading her words. He could almost hear her voice between the lines, calm, unhurried, as if she were speaking directly to him. "You're chasing shadows, Inspector. Shadows don't run, they follow." The handwriting never changed. Perfect, steady, confident. The mark of someone who never doubted herself. One evening, a package arrived for him. No return address, just his name written in that same lilac ink. Inside, a pocket watch still ticking, engraved with a single message. Time catches everyone except the patient. That night, Denham began to see her everywhere. A glimpse of a dark coat at the edge of the market. A reflection in the glass, gone when he turned. The faint trace of perfume on a street corner that vanished in the wind. He ordered raids, interrogations, traps, but every plan unraveled before it began. Witnesses contradicted each other. Letters appeared inside locked evidence drawers. Even his own constables began to suspect him of knowing more than he should. The city wasn't just afraid of her anymore. It was infected by her. She had become part of the rhythm, the pauses between footsteps, the stillness before the fog. And one night, as Denham stared at the burning lamp, he realized the truth. She didn't need to hide from him. He was already lost inside her maze. In her journal, she wrote only one line that week. A hunter chasing a ghost will always become one. And when Denham finally resigned months later, his replacement found something strange in his drawer. A single sheet of paper folded once. No signature, just a faint sweet scent of lilac. But obsession is a quiet disease. And while he hunted her, time hunted them both, because even legends stumble, sometimes by the smallest mistake. It began with a mistake, a small one, almost invisible, a letter that should never have been sent. It bore the wrong name, the wrong address, the wrong secret, and the man who received it wasn't guilty. He was innocent and curious. He took the letter straight to the police. And though they found nothing inside that hadn't been seen before, something shifted. For the first time, the city questioned her. Who was she really? Was she one person? Or had she always been many? The whispers began to turn back on themselves. People who once feared her started to doubt. And doubt, she knew, was the only thing stronger than fear. Her network of informants, the street children, the errand boys, the women who passed her notes, began to vanish. Some were arrested. Some simply disappeared. Her safe houses, once invisible, were watched. And soon every alley felt smaller, every face unfamiliar. She tried to write her way out. More letters, more distractions. But her words, once powerful, had lost their bite. The city had grown used to fear. It no longer trembled. One night, as she sat by her window, she heard laughter outside. Real laughter, careless, unafraid. For the first time in years, she realized. Birmingham had moved on without her. The fog was lifting. The machine she'd mastered had learned to live without its master. She closed her eyes and breathed in the scent of lilac from the pressed petals she kept in her drawer. Once that scent had been her signature. Now it was her only company. She looked around the room, the empty desk, the piles of faded letters, the candle burning low. And for the first time she felt something she hadn't known in years. Loneliness. Outside, the bells began to toll, heavy, patient, uncaring. Her reflection in the window looked softer now, almost kind, almost forgotten. Every city forgets its monsters, she whispered, and perhaps that is mercy. The next morning, her room was empty. No signs of struggle, no note, just a faint trace of lilac, and an unopened envelope addressed simply to the people of Birmingham. Inside there was nothing, not a single word, And maybe that was the final message. Silence. Because silence was the one thing she had never given them. Yet silence has a strange way of echoing. Long after her letters stopped, the city kept hearing her voice, like soft, patient, unhurried. Years passed. Factories changed. Streets were rebuilt, renamed, and repaved. But sometimes, when the fog rolled low across Birmingham, the city seemed to remember. Children whispered stories about her as they walked home from school. A woman in a dark coat who could read minds. A ghost who punished liars. A shadow who wrote letters that made grown men weep. Mothers would hush them, smiling nervously. "Don't speak of her," they'd say. "She listens when you do." And the children would laugh, but only until nightfall. Because at night, when the gas lamps flickered and the streets went still, it was easy to believe she was still out there, watching from some quiet corner, waiting for someone new to write to. No one ever found her body. No grave was marked in her name. Some said she escaped the city and lived under another identity, a seamstress, a widow, a teacher in the countryside. Others claimed she never left at all, that she became part of Birmingham itself, its whispers, its secrets, its restless heartbeat. And sometimes, when a letter appears in a government office with no sender, or a secret leaks that no one could have known, someone always says the same thing. It's her. The mistress is back. The newspapers call it superstition. The police call it coincidence. But the old men at the tavern know better. They speak of her the way sailors speak of storms, not with belief, but with respect, because she didn't just steal money or names. She stole something far more precious, the illusion of safety. She made a whole city look inward and find its own reflection trembling, and maybe that's why her legend endures, because deep down, Birmingham understands her. She was its creation, its mirror, its conscience written in ink and lilac. Sometimes, late at night, when the city grows quiet again, you can almost hear her voice through the fog,